You know that point where you're not sure if you should stay or pack your bag and leave a U shaped hole in the wall? Yeah, that moment. The one where your heart is whispering, maybe. Your gut is yelling, run. And your brain is spinning like a broken washing machine that's about to take flight. Let's just be honest. You're not confused about the relationship. You're confused because of attachment, because of hope, fear, guilt, and the fantasy version of the person you wish you were dating. You're not indecisive. You're just emotionally attached to potential. And no matter how cute potential is, patterns are the truth. So let's talk about this properly, without judgment, just honesty. So let's start with why you're actually stuck. Well, because you don't want to hurt them. You don't want to start over. You don't want to be the bad one, or you're scared of being alone. You're hoping they'll magically evolve. You're stuck because you're trauma bonded and you're invested in the version of them that only exists in your imagination. You're not confused. You're just hoping reality will eventually match the fantasy. But let's look at what staying really requires, because staying isn't the easy option. It requires two people doing the work, not one person doing all the emotional labour of two adults while the other one sits there like a confused houseplant. It requires accountability, consistency, emotional safety, and communication that doesn't feel like you're decoding ancient Celtic scripture. It requires actual change, not promises, not potential, not I'll try. So if you've got someone who can say, yeah, I messed up, without turning it into a 3 hour TED talk, that's a green flag. If they actually change their behaviour instead of giving you the same apology on loop like a broken voicemail, that's a green flag. If you feel safe, if you can be yourself, if you don't have to shrink or tiptoe or rehearse conversations in your own head, that's what staying should feel like. So stay when they take responsibility, when they actually make an effort to change their behaviour. Stay when your nervous system isn't auditioning for a disaster movie. And when communication doesn't require a script or divine intervention. Stay when you can be yourself fully, weirdly, loudly, and honestly. If you've got that, you're not in a perfect relationship. You're in a healthy one. So when should you leave? Well, here's the part that your heart hates, but your soul really needs. You should leave when you're always the one fixing things, when you're the emotional janitor cleaning up messes that you did not make. Leave when they weaponize your wounds and use their trauma as a hall pass for bad behaviour. Because trauma explains behaviour, but it does not excuse it. Leave when you feel more drained than supported. When being with them feels like a full time job with no benefits and terrible management. When you're trying your absolute hardest and they're barely lifting a finger. Leave when you're losing yourself, when you're losing your voice, your identity, your joy, just to keep the peace. And if you have to rehearse conversations in your head before you talk to them, you're not in a relationship. You're in a hostage negotiation. And your nervous system knows way before you do. You just have to listen to it. If your body relaxes more when you imagine leaving than staying, that's not drama, that's data. And if you feel anxious when they text and relieved when they don't, that's not love. That's your nervous system waving a red flag the size of a bedsheet. So what does love actually feel like? Well, safety. It feels like clarity. It's consistency. Love feels like peace. It's breathing easy. It's not chaos. It's not anxiety. And it's definitely not intensity or unpredictability or I don't know where I stand. That's cortisol. That's trauma. That's chemistry mixed with childhood wounds. If the relationship feels like a roller coaster, that's not passion. That's your nervous system begging for stability. So let's talk about the fears that keep you staying, because you stay because you're scared. Scared of being alone, of starting over. You're scared of hurting someone or making the wrong choice. You're scared of losing the fantasy or that you won't find better. But fear, that's a terrible relationship counsellor. It keeps you stuck in situations your soul outgrew years ago. So what happens if nothing changes? Well, you should be asking yourself, if you stay, what does your life look like in a year from now? Or 5 years? 10? And if that thought makes your stomach drop, you already know the answer. Because not every breakup needs a huge disaster to justify it. Sometimes it's just incompatibility or misaligned values. Sometimes it's different needs or just growing in different directions. And sometimes it's just done. But staying should never cost you your self-respect or your peace. It should not cost you your identity, your joy, or your boundaries. And if your mental health is on the line, you need to run as fast as you can in the opposite direction. Because if staying costs you yourself, that's not love, that's sacrifice. So how do you know when you're done? Well, when you've tried everything, when you're grieving the relationship and you're still in it, when you feel more peace when you imagine leaving than you do at the thought of staying, when you're so tired in a way that sleep can't fix. You know when you're done, when the thought of staying hurts way more than the thought of leaving. That's your answer. And remember, you're allowed to choose peace over chaos, even when you understand the chaos. You're allowed to protect yourself, even from people you love. You're allowed to walk away from anyone who refuses to grow, heal, or take responsibility for the damage that they cause. That's not selfish. That's self-respect. So I'll leave you with this. Are you staying because it's healthy? Or because it's familiar?